Hi guys, welcome back to the Revive Stronger podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, not the singer. On the other end, though, let's hand over the mic to Mike, Magic Mike.
Magic
Have you got
Mike,
a jingle?
I didn't prepare anything because I knew you were going to be introing, so I haven't prepared anything. So I'm not gonna embarrass myself. Embarrass
That's
myself.
cool. Every other week, people can look forward to the jingle from Mike, and there's going to be some expectation. What you need to do is get like 10, set them up, and then just rotate through them. 10's quite a lot, to be honest. Maybe you just have two and you rotate between those. It's every other week. People will forget.
Be like Top of the Pops, Mike's greatest hits.
Top of the Pops, man, that's a throwback, isn't it? I can't even remember when that ended. It feels like it was a 90s thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, but it was so good. I remember. I don't know whether it was like on a Friday evening or something, but it'd be like something like a Friday evening. Top of the Pops, 5 p.m. or something.
You just said it's so good. So I'm assuming you watched and tuned in regularly, Mike.
Yeah, it was
You
part of
did?
my
Okay.
yeah, it was part of my Friday like routine almost. It's like, yep,
Uh,
sit down, Top of the Pops, and then it'd be something else after that. Like, I don't know, you'd have EastEnders or like a comedy show or something, Lenny Henry.
so I never, well, my sisters did Top of the Pops, but I'm not into music at all. So this speaks to that side of me where I just don't care. I didn't like Top of the Pops. Like it just, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me. I just like gym music, or rather music when I'm in the gym, basically. Otherwise, I would do regularly Fridays. I remember doing, what was it, Robot Wars, and I think it was
Yeah.
was it E? I think it was WWE at the time, not F. I think they absorbed E at some point, but I liked watching WWE. So yeah, like wrestling was my jam.
Don't remember the wrestling being on, particularly not BBC, so I don't know, can't remember that, but I remember Robot Wars because you'd have that guy from Red Dwarf who would be like, it's time
He
for
was the
Robot
best.
Wars.
And I remember all the, like, well, I say I remember them. I can see them, like Sir Kill-a-Lot, like
Yeah.
Matilda, who had like the tail, kind of, what's it called? Like, and the one with the axe, like no, I said Sir Kill-a-Lot. I can't remember their bloody names. Typical of me. I don't know if you can remember any of them.
I can't remember now, but all the two that you mentioned were the standout ones. Like you said, Matilda with the chainsaw tail,
Chainsaw,
like she'd just annihilate things. And then Sir Kill-a-Lot, I thought he had a lance and a
yeah,
flamethrower.
and he was just
And
massive.
oh yeah, he was huge. But I can't remember the other ones. Was there another
There was
one
one
with
with an
like a swinging
axe,
ball?
swinging ball.
I
I
can't
don't even.
remember.
There were like arena, like danger zones, so there might have been
Mm.
like a swinging ball or like the whatever the pit is called, where if you drive into it, you just go into this pit. Anyway, that's our nostalgia for the listeners who,
Yeah.
if there are any '90s babies, they'll probably remember good times of doing that. I also watched, was it called like I think I'd fall asleep when it came on. Was it like Ask Frasier or something along those lines? It was something Frasier.
Don't remember
I
that
would
one.
watch. Yeah, I'd watch that one, but yeah, anyway, it was a long time ago. I preferred morning cartoons were like my thing, like, and I just watched them all.
What did
X-Men
you
and all
watch?
Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
Those are two I really remember.
Spider-Man was great. Yeah. The old school ones. Yeah, for sure.
How's your
But
day been? You're in
yeah,
the
it's
clinic
been
still.
so we're in the clinic, so we're recording this on a Wednesday. So it's been a physio clinic day, which has been good. And yeah, really good. I think it's funny because there's so many things sometimes that that I'm working with patients and I think, oh man, I could just feel like sharing this. And so there was a situation today. So yeah, so as an example, um, one thing that I always do when I'm, working with people, working with injuries is I'm considering what's going above and below the painful area because I'm very often we have to think with pain or with injuries like is this problem the victim or the villain? So because very often where you're getting the pain isn't actually the source of the problem. And there was a classic example today where there was a patient who'd run an ultra marathon and they were getting knee pain, but actually I felt that the source of the problem was coming from their ankle and a tiny little bit from their hip. And yeah, so it's just interesting cases like that where you've just got to be a bit of a detective and you've just got to have that broader perspective. And again, likening that to training, okay, the scale weight has jumped up or it's fluctuated. Right. Is it just, a 1 day thing? We're not interested in, daily fluctuation. If it's like a weekly or a more longer term trend, again, you're being a bit of a detective and trying to break it down, looking more holistically. Yeah, it's very interesting.
My Sorry, everyone. I put my microphone on, what's it called, mute, and then I clicked it again, and it was slow and delayed. And anyway, I'm back. I was just put myself on mute because I was trying to search as you were speaking, and I definitely agree with what you were saying there. But I was just trying to find a list of some of the old robot war, classic robot wars robots. The one I'm trying to find is the one with the axe. But anyway, that's my brain going on to things that it shouldn't be worrying about. It's funny. I was actually literally speaking with a client today who's got some knee inside knee pain, and we're talking about, well, is it the knee or is it actually something going up higher above the knee? So yeah, that kind of deferred pain is very common for people, and something you have to navigate and work through. And a lot of the skill sets that you develop as a physio, you have to take. We need as coaches anyway, like from empathy to like troubleshooting and all of those sort of things. And yeah, sounds like a good day. And I may have said this to you, and I recommend it to people who are coaches when they're trying to think of content to produce on social media, is your clients can often provide you that content. So like your physio work can provide you content. But the trouble is sometimes it's in the moment, you're talking it through maybe on a check-in, and it's like you don't want to take a moment, you're like in the flow of things. It's like I need to pause this to write a note because I need to write something about that. A lot of the stuff I come across is like, man, this is super practical stuff that no one talks about that I think would be really valuable to expand upon, but then I forget it by the time I've done like 5 check-ins, and I'm like, oh, what was that point again? It's like, no, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that idea capture is so critical. And I've said it before, but I think that's why post-its are really, I've tried to utilize just post-its, because it's like, right, a post-it is in front of you, right, quick, write it down. And then at least if you go on to something else, you can look back and you're like, oh, there it is. And then whenever you're done creating that idea, you can chuck the post-it away.
You just need to be good at writing concise but well-informed post-it notes so that when you come across it, and I don't know if this is going to spring to mind for you, Mike, but if you ever look at some of your notes, you're like, what the hell was I thinking in that moment? Because I do not know. I've certainly left myself notes like that, and I'm just like, what am I going on about? I really wish I could remember.
It's like cheese. Why did I write down cheese? Something like that.
All right, I'm going to have cheese for dinner then. That's solved.
Yeah. And just hope that kind of inspires you in some way.
How are you dealing with the heat at the moment? Sorry, go. You had a question.
No, I was going to say, just on the food front, the Ninja Creamy recipes have been getting better.
Yeah.
So adding the sweetener, adding the salt, adding a bit of cocoa powder. I haven't got the xanthan gum yet, but that's on my to-do list to get this weekend. And yeah, it's definitely helped big time. Definitely enjoying it more.
The xanthan gum definitely isn't needed, like all those things, but every little bit makes an improvement. I have found the xanthan gum to be good. I've actually, funny enough, you mentioned the Ninja Cream. I've just bought guar gum because I have seen some people say guar gum's even better. I was just like, why don't I just buy a little bit, see how that goes, and contrast and compare. And the only thing I worry, my whole thing with that xanthan gum was like that PTSD, like obviously not real PTSD, but from prep and overusing it and causing bloating and discomfort. But I'm getting to this point and I don't know what's driving it necessarily, but I think we mentioned it maybe last time, where I know I'm into this zone of like homeostasis where my body's comfortable because I'm having to push calories to gain weight. And so actually, like I don't know, I mentioned it maybe a couple of podcasts ago, I bumped them up 100, and I'm going to have to bump them again. So I'm going to be over 3,400 now because my weight has still been stable. And there's definitely a correlation now with that and number twos, and also the quality of those number twos. And it's really frustrating for me because I literally can change nothing in my diet, but it's just and I think it's a like genetic thing within me and like a biological regulator of my body weight and body fatness, where it's like, hey, we're just going to waste some of these nutrients by making you shit them out, basically. So I think I'm just losing a ton of calories. I think that's why, like, I gain weight very steadily when I'm leaner than this, lighter than this, because my body's just like, yeah, you need to get back to homeostasis. But then once I'm here, it's like my body kind of fights me. And one of the ways it fights me is just by shitting out calories and making me really inefficient at absorbing those nutrients, I guess. So, but that I was partly saying that because I'm like, is it the xanthan gum that's doing it? But I've tried like having less or having more and removing it, and it doesn't seem to have really played a role. So I think I just have to be, yeah, my digestion gets a little bit picky at this point. So I have to just be a bit extra careful. My appetite's still good. It's just that side of things goes down the shitter, as it were.
Literally.
Yeah.
Does as you increase your calories, do you find your fiber content changes much?
No, I tend to increase calories from non-fibrous sources. Like I have like a base diet almost, as it were. That almost could look like a cutting diet of like lean proteins and then fruits and veggies. And I just have that abundant. And then I build on top of that. So if I'm building out calories, it's normally through, I actually don't know where I've ended up doing it, but it'll be through like an extra bit of like sourdough toast, which I guess would have some fiber with it. Or I might increase like some of my what's it called, the rice flour within my kind of oats that I have, bits and pieces like that. So yeah, my fiber, if I was to look at my MyFitnessPal, if it's counting it accurately, is probably sitting around 50 grams at most. So I hover between 45 to 50 grams, so it's definitely not getting outrageously high. Yeah,
It's interesting, isn't it? It is very interesting.
interesting and frustrating, to be honest. Like I could do with that time not being spent sat on the toilet. The good news is I still feel good. Well, yeah, I mean,
true.
unfortunately or fortunately, I always take my phone to the toilet. It's like it's like I can't go to the toilet without my phone. So just, I don't know, it's a habit of I just pick it up. It's like when I walk downstairs, I'll pick up my phone. Like it just comes it's a mobile, right? It has to come everywhere with you. I joke, I don't know if you ever have this joke with people with their parents where they like go out and you try and call them or whatever. And they're like, why didn't you pick up? It's like, oh, I left my phone at home. It's like, it's a mobile. It's meant to be with you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's good to have that kind of release from it. Anyway, I digress. But that's where I'm at. How are you dealing with the heat is the question I was coming to.
Not
You
too
can see the
bad.
fan in the background.
Yeah, so it's more because the clinic, there's just no, I don't know whether with where the room is positioned, but it's just like a greenhouse in this clinic room.
Oh,
So the fan is definitely needed. It's not so bad at home, but because I can like open windows a little bit better and there's a bit more kind of airflow and stuff. But definitely in the clinic, the fan is useful for sure.
imagine for physio. It's like that, like with massage, physio, I don't know, dentistry, anything that's like a bit one-on-one and close. I feel like aircon is like something to make the environment comfortable is quite important. I don't know if it ever gets uncomfortable just being that hot, like one-on-one with someone where it's just like, you feel a bit sticky and I don't know.
You can do for sure. It's just temperature regulation is actually really important because you don't want the room to be super cold. So in the winter, you need to heat things up because if you're super cold, all the muscles are like really,
Yeah.
rigid and stuff. And also patients can't relax because they're just freezing. And then, but equally, if it's clammy and hot, you're just uncomfortable and you can't concentrate because you're just thinking of how uncomfortable you are. So yeah, you need to regulate it.
I don't have this problem anymore, Mike, but I can remember going for haircuts when I was quite hot and just like sitting there and sweating because it wasn't an air conditioned, I guess, facility or whatever, hairdressers or barbers. Yeah, that was not comfortable. And then they're like, I just see these drips like off my nose and I'm like, oh no, I'm sweating into my eyes. This is so uncomfortable. And then they try and talk to you and I'm like, I can't. Quite often hairdressers aren't, I don't know, they're often foreign and their English maybe isn't that great or they speak quite quietly and I don't know why I struggle to know what they're telling me. And then I feel really anxious or like stressed because I'm like, oh God, I want to reply to you, but I can't just laugh and go, haha, because I don't know if that's appropriate to what you just said. And then I start sweating more.
So funny. I feel like it used to change. I feel like it's changed at some point because I feel that, I don't know, in the past, like you would talk to barbers a little bit more, but I feel like again now, like times have changed and it's just more normal for you just not to say anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very much, I let others guide that. Like if they talk to
Yeah.
me, I talk to them. If they don't talk to me, I don't talk to them because I'm kind of like, I'm quite happy not talking to someone, but if they want to have a conversation, it's rare that I come out of that conversation feeling bad about it. It's normally it's like, oh, that was quite nice.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I think because we're also quite naturally introverted, it's not our like it's not our desire to drive a conversation. So we might like say, "Oh, hey, you're okay? How are you?" And then past that, if there's no drive for the conversation, it's like we'll just happily sit there in silence.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly that way. And actually, this is funny because this has turned into something that's happening with me on Friday. So why we're recording this early actually is because, well, my day tomorrow is, yeah, I have to, this time tomorrow, I better be packed and thinking about leaving soon because I'll be going to Liverpool for the first time, I think ever. I don't know if I've been to Liverpool. I don't know if maybe as a child I saw a Liverpool game with my dad, but I'm not sure. It's called Merseyside. Is that their stadium? What it is?
Yeah.
Or yeah. So I don't know if I saw a game there before. I'm not sure. That would be the only reason I've ever been to Liverpool. But I'm going there for a tattoo, and so actually,
Mm.
it's another situation where I looked at the weather like I don't know a few weeks ago, and I knew I was having the tattoo then. I was like, why does that have to be? It's like the worst. Getting a tattoo in summer is the worst idea. It's just not. I didn't think about it though. I could have booked in like don't know early May if I wanted to. I think I just chose to delay it. I don't know. It's like one of those because I know it's a bit annoying to get a tattoo because of it takes you out of training, the travel, all of that good stuff. Anyway, so I'm doing that. I'm hoping he has aircon, and it'll be another situation of well, one, how's body temperature regulation is kind of important when you're getting a tattoo. It's kind of stressful and hot and heat inducing anyway because the body just kind of heats up due to stress. And then, yeah, I don't know what he's going to be like because I've never had a tattoo from him. So I don't know if he's a talker or if he'll just want to be silent. And again, I'll let him go with what he wants because I know when I go with Sam Andrews, my artist that I've had most work done, we talk quite a bit during that. But it's helpful because it kind of allows for time to like pass, and also it takes me out of like I'm talking to someone who is not interested in health, fitness, bodybuilding at all, and it's like we just talk about I don't know stuff in his life, and we're a similar age, so it's quite nice, kind of that different perspective. Anyway, that's going on in my world. We'll see how much it impacts training. To some extent, it depends where on the calf it is and how big it is. So I can't remember, but there was some areas on the calf. I think it was the outer calf that impacts training the least. I think it basically has no impact. So you imagine what impacts the outer calf. That skin doesn't really stretch in any positions, and like you don't have any compression of hamstring to calf. Like it's not getting touched or rubbed. So outer calf is perfect. So that's where I have Levi on my outer calf, but Erin on
Mm.
the inner calf. That had more modifications because then you can't like deep squat or leg press, stuff like that, and the skin is more liable to stretch, mostly just on calf raises though. Otherwise, there's not really much going on. And for length and partials, it doesn't probably stretch all that much. So yeah, I
Mm.
just have to see if and also the stress response can be a bit different. As you can imagine, it's basically trauma to a large portion of skin. So sometimes I've had a really severe stress response where I've had like a lot of inflammation, and actually I think it's called like tattoo flu. There's actually a thing for it where you can have an immune response from getting a tattoo where you feel sick for like a couple of days. So that has
Really?
happened to me before. Yeah, but that was after a 2-dayer. So I had when I got Jiraiya, and then I also had Itachi filled in, and I think that was all at the same time. And then had no, I think I just had Naruto filled in because it was just black and grey, and then I had Jiraiya done, but I had that back to back days. So I think just the total volume of work and trauma area was just too much. My hand, I don't know if you ever saw the picture of my hand, Mike, but it was like
Yeah.
an obese hand.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. I remember when you showed the pictures of that, and it was just literally like, one of those latex gloves which you fill with water. It looked like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I'm not hoping that any of that occurs. But yeah, so anyway, I've got an Airbnb booked in Liverpool, and I'll be doing some client check-ins that morning. I decided because the tattoo isn't actually till 11. So I'm like, hey, I can work like
Mm.
for a good few hours actually whilst I'm there. So I'm going to take my laptop and do some bits whilst I'm over there, which is quite nice. The Airbnb I've got, I didn't have much choice. It can have 6 people. And I'm like, it's just me.
Nice.
But it's one bedroom with like 3 double beds. So it's not like it's a huge place or anything. It's just
Gotcha.
funny. It's like if I want to have a party, I just I have loads of space.
Little rave to all to yourself.
Yeah. And then I don't know how long the tattoo is. Again, with
Okay.
it seems to vary a little bit artist. It's probably similar to physios. Like, I don't know, do you charge by the hour, or is it like once you finish the project, or so on and so forth? But I think it'll be a good 8 hours of tattooing. So that's normally what it kind of is. So yeah, we'll see.
When do you come back? What day do you come back?
I have an open return, so just in case it goes real late on the Friday, I
Mm.
haven't got any accommodation for the Friday, but I can get some if I need to, like last minute. I'm hoping I come back Friday, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
It's
Okay.
a If it's a good train that's fast, it's 2 hours from London Houston, so that's not bad. And then it's about
No.
45 minutes from London Houston to home. So in total, that's not bad at all, considering it's all the way in Liverpool, which feels quite
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, that's great. Like you said, Liverpool's really far up north, so that's 2 hours is really good.
Yeah, it made me be like, hey, me and Charlotte just go for a weekend away in Liverpool at some point. Like, if it's that easy to get
Totally.
there.
You could kind of like just, scout the area a little bit. Just as you're walking to the tattoo place, you can just kind of look around and just see like, is this a good place where we might want to go?
Get a bit of a vibe for it. So I know that
Yeah.
I think we have some listeners from Liverpool, but yeah, they have to give me some advice of places to go.
Tell you who's from Liverpool. Nikias lives in Liverpool.
Nikias is exactly the person I was thinking of.
Mm.
I'm sure we
Yeah.
have some others from Liverpool as well.
But Liverpool used to be a city of culture. Well, it still is a city of culture, but it was like, the city of culture gets awarded to different places in the UK, and Liverpool was definitely one of them. But it might not be, and people are going to pull me up on this, but like, obviously it's famous for like, the Beatles originated there and, lots of other, what was it? Black Sabbath, I think or was that Birmingham? I don't know. But definitely the Beatles and maybe somewhere else. But anyway, it's a city of culture, so there'll be lots of cultural stuff, which will be good to go to.
If you're into culture, then Liverpool is your place, I guess.
Yeah, and don't ask Mike because he doesn't know. It could be Birmingham, it could be Liverpool, could be Scotland. Who knows?
If I could hear an accent, I don't know if I could pull it apart from being Liverpoolian or from Birmingham. There's some, yeah. Anyway,
It
interesting
meshes.
accents, and so I'm excited for that. Anyway, that's my news for the
Yeah,
week. Any news on
that.
your end?
Well, there is some big news actually, which
Oh,
I'm kind of. I don't know how I feel about it, but I've nearly finished Naruto Shippuden.
I was really hoping. I was like, what's this going to be? Is Mike going to be, I don't know, changing jobs? Has he got a girlfriend, or is he going to come out as actually no, he's gay?
I
No,
should
I
have
don't
done
think he'd come
something
out.
like that because
Yeah,
then
that
it
would have
would
been great.
dun 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 sound effects or something.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you're getting man. I haven't watched any anime for too long. Well, actually, I've been watching a bit of Overlord. It's called, but
Mm.
you know when you have, don't know if you've ever had an anime where you just have it on the side and you don't really pay close attention to it. So I'm kind of like, oh, this is fun, but I also don't really know what's going on.
It's fine. Like I do you know what? It's funny. My brain can't do that because for whatever reason, that background anime it distracts me. So I'll either watch the anime and not do the work, or I'll just like it will just not. I can't do both together. So I always tend to do like one or the other.
Can't multitask. You're a true male brained.
Or yeah, my brain's just not good at processing things. So who knows? Tunnel vision.
Mine's not great. I probably do half-assed on both, but that's all right. I only do that on the weekend when I don't have serious work that I'm doing. It's more like admin stuff that I'm just doing on the side or browsing some shops or something online.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to know actually, when you were at uni, were you the type of person that would go to the library to study, or did you stay at home and study?
Never went to the library. Nah, was not for
Yeah.
me at all. I did it from my room, like, but I could do that. Whereas, were you a library kid?
No, I wasn't. I was
But
a
you're at home
total
as
room
well.
person. I
Yeah.
thought you might say you were a library person because you liked maybe people being around you and stuff,
Oh
but
no.
I
Less people around me is a good thing, I think. No, I like doing it from home because I'm like, hey, I don't have to waste time commuting. I also have all
Yeah.
my food here. I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I just never liked. Yeah, I kind of get it. It's like some people like working, like if they work from home, they sometimes go to like a coffee shop and work. And I'm just like, sometimes I tried that because people said it. And I was like, man, I just like working from home on my own.
Yeah.
But
I just like
training,
being at home.
I don't know if I'd want a gym at home. But I think part of that is due to equipment limitations more than anything. I don't know if the social environment is something I'm too bothered by or not.
I'm definitely not bothered by the social environment in the nicest possible way. You know, I like just being in my own headspace. I like having the music, just my own little music, and just being in my own little vibe and my own little world. And I just like the idea of I don't have to travel. I can just like open the garage door, open a door, and I'm in and I'm good to go. I love the idea of that.
Yeah, it's just yeah, like I said, the limitations of even if you had the money to get said equipment, sourcing said equipment, and then also the space, which is the biggest hurdle probably out of anything.
Yeah. You just wish you were in the same situation as Mike Israetel. You just wish you could like have
With
that in
loads
your
of
back
money.
garden or something. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Money
Loads
solves
of
all
money and the
problems.
space.
But yeah, in the US, I think we've said this before, home gyms are way more realistic in the US just due to space. In the UK, we're just so small that like it's pretty rare that people have well-equipped home gyms. I'd say it's quite rare to have well-equipped. It's not too uncommon to have like a garage with like a squat rack in there, but to have like lots of pieces, I think it's pretty rare. Should we
Yeah.
get some questions, Mike? Unless there's
Let's get
anything
to
else
some
you wanted to talk
questions.
about, because we're only going to have an hour this time around because of time limitations, mostly on my end. So I apologize, guys. Do you have them up?
I'm getting them up right now.
Okay, we're both.
Right. So we had a couple of left over from last time, didn't we?
Yeah. So the first one I have is for you, actually. So I should ask.
Cool.
So it's from, I'm going to say it's Kaylin Baker underscore
Yeah.
Baker. Mike, how do you find balancing the roles of physio and a coach? Have you had any trouble separating the two with patients or clients?
So I would say I'm in the fortunate position where the clinic where I work, I'm self-employed. So it makes it very easy. It makes it a lot easier in terms of I'm not more, I haven't got like a fixed thing that I'm tied into. So as you know, I can be a bit more flexible on that front. I think I do have to be, a little bit more structured in terms of my days, like because I can answer emails when I'm in the clinic, but it does, unless I've got lots of gaps, it is harder to you know be a bit more flexible with check-ins. So I have to make sure like, hey, this is my coaching day, this is my physio day, and it's a lot harder for me to be responsive on those other days. um but apart from that, I wouldn't say that I have any problems with balancing the two. And actually, I would say they complement each other because when I'm working as a physio, it's obviously in person, and that to us, I find it it's very intense, I think. At least I find it to be quite intense. And also you're very tied in. It's like, if you have a client check-in, it's like, cool, I know that I need to get back to them, but equally if I need to, you know, do it in half an hour, I can do it in half an hour. Whereas like, hey, this patient is at 11, they're literally at your door. You've got to see them at 11 kind of thing. So I find in-person physio quite intense, but then having that variation in my week where, you know, I'm in the clinic seeing people one-on-one, then I'm kind of at home in my own home, relaxed environment with a bit more flexibility to how I go about my work. I think for me, that gives me a balance, which really just brings a lot of, gives me a lot of well-being and, makes me feel a lot better, I would say.
Yeah, some big part of me is jealous of that. When I see, like, I know, for example, when people have children, it like forces you to be much more structured with your time and much more efficient with it. And I know when I've like very busy weeks where I have to be like that, I can get tons done. But then when I have relatively open weeks, which is lovely, because then it's like, hey, I don't have to stress about getting this done by a certain time, or I have plenty of time to be able to get it done. And I'm a bit free, it can be a bit stressful at times. I'll say that from my perspective, in that like I'm not got children, not got any dependents, only a dog, which sometimes can be stressful, has been recently, but she seems to be getting better. Anyway, I digress. But I have like lots of time to work. So if clients reach out to me, I almost always am back with them like within minutes. And I like doing that because it feels good and I know they appreciate it. But at the same time, I do find myself like, hey, like I said to you today, there was a chunk of time in my morning where, because I'd already done work yesterday that was actually meant to be kind of done today, theoretically, but I just did it because I had time yesterday, I then have gaps and I'm like, oh, what do I do with this gap? I have to fill it in with something else. And sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, I should be doing X, Y, and Z, or like I don't have something formal to get to. It's just more time to go into podcast research or to, I don't know, structuring a social media post. And there's always something to do, but it's that situation of, if I had like no gaps in my time, my calendar was back to back. Whilst that's stressful, I think there's something so freeing about that. So I think I'd like more days where they were just like almost chock full and I had nothing. Like if a client reached out to me and they're not in comp prep and they're emailing me just out of the blue, I don't need to get back to them. I can get back to them the next day if this day was full. And I actually think I'd like that. It's making me consider, and I know quite a few coaches do this, consolidating their week, where I have check-ins every day, basically, where actually I could consolidate them into 3 days of like chock full then, and that would be intense. But then I would have like other days completely towards content or other things, or podcast recording, for example, whereas I leave my calendar like very open. So I'm super flexible. If someone wants to book in a podcast Monday, Friday, almost any time, I want to be able to accommodate. But at the same time, that is stressful. Then when they do book in at a time that I'm like, oh, normally I do this, then I'm like, oh, then I have to move that. And anyway, that's my ramble. Other online
No.
coaches might resonate with that.
Yeah, and do you know what? I don't know if you've heard of him. Have you heard of someone called Jay Shetty?
Yes.
So he's spoken a little bit about this, and it might not be the exact words, but he says like you could either have it as a day or a period of the day, which is like, right, this is your creative day, or this is your, doing work day where you're answering emails, handling problems. And because there are going to be periods in the day where you might feel a bit more creative, or, maybe you're not as creative, but you're just in doing mode, and so it's like, right, to that part of the day when you're going to be at your best for this particular activity, allocate that for that. So like you said, it might be that, right, Monday to Wednesday, you're doing client check-ins. So you're just in the zone doing that. But then, right, Thursday, Friday, that is totally your time to make podcasts, research, etc. Makes sense that he talks about that as well. Be good for you to do it as an experiment, maybe.
Yeah, I used to be better. I would have Fridays as like a programming day, client setup day, and like a content production day, like do a vlog. Like that's when I'd always do my vlog. And I just found myself not doing that, actually, to the point of which on Tuesday, just gone, because I worked so much over the weekend because a few check-ins came in. I was like, oh, I'll do them and I've got the time, so I'll just do it. And then again, that takes away from my weekend. And then on Tuesday, I had time. I filmed a whole vlog and, well, I filmed it. I'd already filmed it, but I like edited and put together the vlog. So that's great and fine. But yeah, you can see how it can be stressful if you're too flexible. There's good to be flexible within reason. So yeah, it's something I need to work on for sure. Anyway, sorry, I rambled.
No, this is why this is good. It gets us to reflect on ourselves. And for the listeners, it's knowing that, hey, none of us are perfect. We're all works in progress. So next question, Martin Cuppers asks, how do you manage carbs, salt, and water on peak week and show day?
I'm going to do this could be a whole podcast, probably. So I'll try and answer it as succinctly as I can to my general philosophy with these. So I'll start with salt and water. And with those, about a month out from their show, I'll get clients to start monitoring them. So we know where they're at. And I have an understanding if I want to manipulate them at all. Typically, I think people work towards a level of hydration that works really well for them. And so you don't typically need to. A lot of my guys will be on like anywhere between 5 to 7 liters of fluids at that point, and their sodium intake will be like corresponding with that. So a bit higher if you're drinking a bit more, a bit lower if you're not. And most of us are having plenty of plants and therefore getting plenty of potassium within our diet. And potassium and sodium and precise manipulations of those only really matter when you are doing like a rapid backload. So long as you're not doing anything crazy with those and you're keeping them relatively consistent, they just need to be there and available versus something that might be manipulated a bit more during a rapid backload, because potassium and sodium are needed for full carbohydrate repletion. And also they are, I guess, in some sense, ways to get fullness too, because water is associated with those elements as well. So you can get a bit more sodium full by having a bit more sodium, which is something we'll come on to. But regardless, I get them to start monitoring them, get a weekly average, and then I get them to basically try and keep those within a reasonable range. And I might decide to bump them up or not. We might trial that, but generally I just get them to hold them there. And then through peak week, if anything, I would get them to increase them alongside carbohydrates. And then on show day, it'll be a case of, again, making sure you're kind of hydrated, but sipping on water as you're getting closer to stage. So 1, you don't need to pee, and 2, you're not bloated. And then 2, there'll be an extra bump in sodium on show day through typically like a heaped teaspoon of salt going before stage. I think it might be half a teaspoon actually. Off the top of my head, I'm not completely sure. Around a teaspoon of salt pre-stage, just for that bump in sodium. And that could be like anywhere from an hour to half an hour pre-stage. So you've got that, and that's going to help again with the pump and with the vasodilation and look on stage. And then, so that's kind of salt and water. I have manipulated water and salt differently before in terms of like trying to upregulate things that would lead to you peeing more, diuresis, so that there's this theory of, hey, you can kind of load water. This gets the body upregulating hormones that would lead to diuresis, but then you pull water back. So you're still peeing out loads, but you had the water there and present to be stored with the glycogen within the muscles. But then you're like getting a really tight, crisp look by peeing continually afterwards. So there's none in the subcutaneous space and stuff like this. But personally, I haven't seen huge benefits in that. And I have found those to be very stressful. So some coaches use a bit of kind of fluid and electrolyte kind of load in a sense, but I tend to find that the stress isn't worth the benefit. Then in terms of carbohydrates, you can load these in a variety of different ways. I do think using refeeds and diet breaks can help inform how does someone respond. Do they have a soft load look, as it was called? So you give them more carbs and they actually just look softer because they kind of store them initially in the subcutaneous space. Some people just look better and better as you give them more carbs. But when do they look their best? They look their best after 2 days of loading, or is it 2 days and a low day? Or is 2 days not even filling them out fully, but they are at theoretical maintenance, so they need even more? Or are they spilling over at some point? So you just have a bit of an awareness of, okay, the amount of carbs we're giving during a refeed or diet break, what leads to what look? And if you've got ample time, you can even try and force a spill, which I've done with some people before. So we have an actual like, hey, this is what your spilled look looks like. So we have that data available. Because sometimes it's like, did we get close to spilling you, or like how close to full were we? So if you have like, oh, this is your depleted look before all of your refeed days. So after like say 5 low days, this is you pretty depleted. Now, after 2 very high carb days, what's your spilled look? And then you have that data available and you can reflect upon that. With that said, then you can choose your carbohydrate loading strategy. I will say, like I said, the rapid backload is a more risky approach. It's like a one shot and you've got to succeed. Glycogen also takes time to be stored, so you can't be doing this on show day. You don't want to be pounding tons of food on show day either, because of the food volume of that, the digestion of that, and the fact that glycogen takes 24 hours plus to be stored and assimilated properly within muscles. So the rapid backload needs to be very well planned and timed, and so it's not that suitable to a ton of individuals for that reason, and it's a bit more risky. So you might want to trial that a bit more, or do it with someone that can really dial those things in, and you just have to assess whether or not the risk is worth the reward. I have my own opinions on that. I don't necessarily think it very often is. I think we can get similar looks with methods that would be more consistent, I think. And then you have other just backload approaches. So you could have you could have 1 or 2 high days, like like a Wednesday, Thursday for a Saturday show. And then your Friday can be like a top up, a maintenance, or like a cleanup day leading into the Saturday. Or you might be like, hey, actually, let's like do a front load and then see how your look goes, and then maybe push them up towards the end of the week. So it's almost like a front load with a bit of a back load. Front load used to be how everyone did it. But I think a lot of people realized, hey, I looked really good at my front load, and then I kind of lost my look, and then we tried to replicate it, and then it wasn't quite as good. So I think a mid to back load is suitable for most people. And especially if you need to bring in more condition and leanness, so you actually need some diet days to continue to look better. Hopefully you don't. And if you don't, if you're already ready, then you can literally do a linear load, which could be a week or more of slowly building up calories to find your kind of quote unquote look, and then hold like a perma peaked look. And that's my preferred approach, but it takes time, and it takes time away from dieting and getting leaner. So it's not always something you can do. So those are some of, and I said I'd answer this quickly. That is kind of my quick answer. Like there's a lot of detail that I could go into and we could go into, but yeah, I don't know if that sprung any thoughts for you, Mike, or if you have anything to add.
Nothing to add really, just it's just it's something that we went through with myself, that we did a linear load, and also just being with you during the last season as well, seeing that rapid backload as well. It's just interesting, all of the things that you mentioned in terms of trade-offs, practicalities, stress, because you might think, oh, a rapid backload sounds great, but actually it's inherently stressful. You've got to have a lot of things in place, and it's not suitable for everybody. Yeah, it's been interesting experiencing those different things.
Yeah, there's a lot less room. Like the less time you have to load glycogen, there's less room for error. Like it's so easy to misfire, be spilled, or to be soft. Oh, okay. Sorry. I just wanted to mention, he did mention show day. So show day food for me is just like a bit of a maintenance day. So on show days, hopefully you're just sitting around, not doing much. Glycogen, once your glycogen full, can be stored for an extended period of time. So hopefully through your peaking approach, you're peaked at this point, and it's just about making sure that you're not getting bloated, that you have energy for show day, and you're getting in the required electrolytes and fluids through the day. So I almost mirror close to a low day. A typical low day is typically what I go for. I don't like to push a bunch of food that day. But if someone is on later in the day, there can be show day manipulation. So like if someone's like, they wake up and you're like, man, you're super flat and your scale weight dropped loads, like we need to still help fill you out, then you can use some of the rapid backloading approaches on show day, like having liquid carbohydrates, maybe having a multi-transportable carbohydrate, so having some fructose, having some glucose, those sort of things to help kind of get that in rapidly. But you don't really want to be doing that, because inherently with that is stress. So, and to be honest with you, Mike, I think one of the most underrated and underappreciated aspects of a successful peak week is bringing stress down, because inherently it's such a stress physique. And this is something I'm not a huge fan of the rapid backload with, is because it is stressful, even for those who can manage it and do it really well. One, it impacts your sleep, absolutely impacts your sleep. Two, you're dieting into it, so it's stressful that way. And I'm just always like, how long does it actually take the physique to come to life and to look fresh and good? I don't know if a day is enough. So it's like, you need to be shredded for a rapid backload to work really well. But at the same time, if you're really truly shredded, you're in quite a stressed state. So it can be nice to have a bit more time to bring around like a stress reduction. So yeah, there's like pros and cons to all these approaches, and you just have to find what works for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Stress would be really underrated. Yeah, great point. I'm
I could
conscious
talk
that
about
we've
peak week way too long. Sorry.
no, it's good.
I'll get to the next
Um,
question, shall I?
yeah.
So it's from Afonso underscore Puga. Been straight leg deadlifting from the floor and wondering if for hypertrophy, increasing height and decreasing weight may be better. Hip/spine flexion. Increasing
I don't
height
necessarily,
and decreasing weight. Okay. So
I don't
maybe from a
necessarily
deficit,
think
is that
so.
what he's trying to suggest?
I think so. I think he's thinking, can he get access more range by lowering the weight? And, will that lead to, is that better? And I don't necessarily think so. Um, I think ultimately, does when you are performing the stiff-legged deadlift, do you feel like you are getting a stretch in your hamstrings, a deep stretch in your hamstrings? And if the answer is yes, then that is deep enough, I would say. And ultimately, if you're decreasing the load but increasing the weight, that would mean like, oh, is that more of a technical thing? Again, maybe it is a technical thing. And so, maybe we do have to slightly refine the technique to find that middle ground. But I don't feel that we should sacrifice load for the sake of trying to get more range of movement. I don't think that would lead to better gains. It's kind of like, I would liken it to, I can't even, the thought's just gone out of my head. I was thinking, again, we're thinking about that dichotomy between pristine technique and actually going to muscular failure. If we're keeping technique too pristine, then ultimately we're probably leaving gains on the table because we're not getting to a sufficient proximity to failure. But equally, we don't want to completely sacrifice technique and let it go out the window, because then again we're causing injury. So there's a middle ground there. So I would say if Afonso is getting a great stimulus, he can perceive a good stretch in his hamstrings when he's performing the movement, you're good.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mike. This is something I flip-flopped a little bit on, in that in the past I really put a high precedent on technique, and like technique was the absolute king. And then if you can use less weight and you can use more range of motion, then like, hey, the SFR should be even better, because now we're getting to a greater stretch. We're training under, we're getting to a more lengthened position, and less load means, hey, there's not going to be as much, if you want to call it CNS fatigue or just fatigue and loading, axial loading. And so that's like win, win, win. But when I found I did this, whenever I tried to push hard, inevitably something would break down and I'd start to feel things in the wrong places. So actually, to take the target muscle to true muscular failure, I couldn't, because my technique would break down before I could get to that position. So I then reframed the way I approach a lot of my lifts, where I'm like, I want to get to a good long stretch and a decent muscle length, but not so much that I can't train with like aggression within my technique. Like, I want good technique that I can train aggressively. And this is the same sort of line of, I think if you try and, similarly, people might think, if I do slower eccentrics with a pause, I can lower the load that I use and generate maybe better SFRs, because the fatigue will be less, because there's less load going through my body and through my spine on, say, like a hack squat. But when I found I did that, it got to the point where when I did try and like get close to failure, I wouldn't be able to maintain that level of control and pause. And I just was like, I'd be technically failing miles before actually my quads would be failing. So I'm like, I just need, and especially when you're like where we are now, we run our mesocycles for much longer than we used to in the past, and we'll be at zero RAR for multiple weeks. How do you try and gain a rep in a situation where you aren't able to get into that most aggressive position? I think it's a bit of a skill to be able to have like super aggressive training whilst maintaining very adequate technique. And you have to find that for yourself. But I don't know if that made any sense. Have you tried it where you've had, trying to get to such a control or long muscle length and fullest range of motion, but you actually then, too many things could break down before you could actually take that muscle as close to failure as you should be able to? And when you, inevitably, what would happen with me, Mike, is I'd progress and I'd get to a point where I'm like, man, my technique is so much, like my tempo's away fast, my range of motion doesn't look quite as good, or I'm feeling it in the wrong areas now. And it's because actually I haven't got that combination right.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, from my perspective, it was kind of like sometimes I would record myself performing a set, and at the time I would perceive my technique to not be as good. I'd be like, oh, I was a bit loose on that set, but my stimulus was better sometimes because I was able to achieve better intensity, and I'd be like, my technique was loose, but damn, I got a great stimulus in the target muscle. And it's like, so yeah, I think you're right there.
Nice.
Right,
So we
next
might
one.
get another couple of questions, hopefully. So this one's from Athletic Revolution 2K25. What productivity tools do you use as an online coach slash personal trainer? Thanks.
Google spreadsheet. That's my productivity tool. I
Google Sheets.
genuinely don't have any productivity. What is a productivity tool anyway?
A timer. If you're doing, there's something called, I can't remember what it's called. It's something related to tomato. Someone's going to laugh because they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a something technique. It's like tomato
Pomodoro
technique.
technique.
Pomodoro. There you go. See where I was coming with tomato. Pomodoro technique. Tomato technique. There you go. Yeah, it's like a Pomodoro. I don't know what the time is, but you like have a timer and you like, right, I'm going to work on this task for that time. It's stuff like that, I guess. A calendar.
I've got
There
nothing.
you go. Google Calendar.
Google. Yeah, I use a
I
little
use
bit of
that.
that. True, but nothing particular.
So I would say if I was to try and provide some value, because similarly to you, Mike, I don't really use much, but Calendly would be the biggest thing for me, where people
Yeah.
can book into your calendar. So if you have consultation calls and stuff, they can just see where you've got things blocked off or not, and they can book a time that's appropriate for them. That would be really great. And then I think productivity tools. So, for example, when someone signs up with us, they get an automated email. So they sign up through PayPal or Stripe, and they'd sign up through our website. And when they sign up, they get an automated email welcoming them to coaching and directing them to a specific area on our website, of which it directs them to a handbook that has a PDF that goes over our coaching practices, and then another application form. So they fill that out. So I find that to be a real time saver, because otherwise you'd have to keep checking when the person paid, or they paid in the middle of the night. You wouldn't be able to get to them till the next morning with an email. You'd have to email them individually. So little things like that, having your systems in place on your website could be helpful. So I think that's, I don't know if that's actually set up through MailChimp. It might be something that we use to send out emails, but having those automated processes in place is very helpful. Yeah, to Google Sheets would be like the Google, don't know what it's called, like the application form, whatever that is. So you have Google Forms, I think it's called, would be another tool that we would use. Canva, I guess you also use Canva as well, Mike.
Yeah, use Canva,
which I think can be useful for social media content.
and I don't know if it counts, but again, I think scheduling posts on Instagram is really useful. I think that maybe you might class that as a productivity-ish thing, but yeah, I think scheduling emails as well sometimes. I think that was a big game changer for me, actually, learning that, you don't need to send an email there and then you can schedule it to go out at a certain time. I think little things like that for me are useful.
Yeah, that's definitely useful. The only other one I use is like CapCut on a regular basis, but maybe we should get to one last question, or maybe we can get through a few more, but I think that was that.
So, _vital4z_ asks, hamstrings are extremely sore after 2 to 3 sets of RDLs, plateaued for a long time on strength, still increase the next set.
Still increase sets. So I don't know what that necessarily is. That makes it sound like to me like a volume position. Like, should I still increase sets because I've plateaued on strength? So yeah, interesting one. Again, this is hard to relate to because neither you or me get sore hamstrings. And therefore, I don't think getting extremely sore after 2 to 3 sets of RDLs is a problem. Plateauing on strength, it depends how long that plateau's been. It depends what nutritional state you're in, and if you're in a state where you could expect your strength to go up. So if you're in an extended diet, of course, it's going to be a bit tougher, especially as an advanced individual that's been using this lift for an extended period of time. But if you're in an off season and you're a novice, then you would expect strength to go up relatively quickly over time. So kind of what's the time course we're looking at? What's the kind of nutritional phase and the level of advancement of the individual are some of the things I'd be thinking about there. I'm pretty certain this person asking is relatively advanced. I imagine they're in a surplus because I don't think they'd be asking it otherwise. So being extremely sore after 2 to 3 sets, as long as you're recovered for the next time you train hamstrings, I don't really see that as a problem. And then on the other day that you train hamstrings, maybe you're not doing a hip hinge, maybe that's where you could increase some volume, and that might help to alleviate this problem. I would also say if you have been plateaued for an extended period of time, I would say maybe 4 weeks, a month, that it might be worth rotating it just to see if that will allow for that novelty. Can sometimes just help the body get quicker adaptations than it otherwise would just pounding the same movement, even if that's just psychological. And then when you come back to the RDL, you're in a better position to be able to progress with it because you've just given it time to like cool off, and maybe you've continued to grow a bit more hamstring muscle size. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Mike.
Not really. The only thoughts that came to my mind was more around Jake Remit's meta-regression, because for strength, wasn't it 2 sets where it was you get to your PUOS for strength, or something? Or have I got that wrong? Because I'm trying to remember what that particular finding for strength was from the meta-regression. Do you remember?
Can't remember the number, but I don't think they have as much confidence in that number as for the hypertrophy number, at least from my understanding. I think they're kind of like the level of skepticism of that, because it was just so far from what they tend to see within, like, I guess day-to-day and the literature as a whole. Not literature as a whole, sorry. Outside the literature. So like personal experience and anecdote through powerlifters and people like that. I'm assuming he is talking about strength in relation to hypertrophy, though, not strength for strength's sake.
It's hard to know, isn't it, from that question? But yeah, we can only assume at the moment. But apart from that, nothing else to add.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with those sort of things. Sometimes it can just happen, and it may even be worth, you don't even necessarily need to rotate RDLs out. It might just be worth like dropping a down set or something, just something a little different to give the body a little bit of a different stimulus to progress on. Just things can become stale. I think that's the easiest way to think about it, really. Time for one more question?
Yeah, let's see if we can get one more in.
Right, so ED Recovery Lifts asks, not a question, but the last few pods are great. Thanks for your commitment to quality content and banter. Our pleasure. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Ed.
So, next question, keeping up with John. Besides macros, do you test any specific micros before deciding on improving those levels for ensuring healthy lifestyle? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done any specific blood tests, and I certainly haven't. Yeah, I haven't done that where I've tested specific macros before making any implementations. I personally have been really lucky where I've never had any particular issues from a health perspective, so I've never had the need to do any specific blood test analysis. I would say that I do take a vitamin D supplement, more so from this case of a general shotgun approach of, hey, I live in the Northern Hemisphere and it's probably helpful to supplement with that. But apart from that, nothing else in particular. I just make sure that I eat plenty of vegetables, plenty of variety of fruits and veg, and go by how I feel.
I think generally that's a very safe approach. I think we maybe have discussed this before where, yeah, it's probably not a bad idea, and I certainly wouldn't recommend against it by any means. And if someone was to push me, I'd say, hey, getting a blood test done every 6 to 12 months is not a bad idea, just to see what's going under the hood. But at the same time, for a natural person who feels healthy, is nailing all the aspects that we know leads to good health, like they're getting a diverse, varied diet, so there's no clear holes. They're not restrictive in their dietary approach, like they're not a vegan or what have you, where they're eliminating whole food groups that could lead to some deficits that we maybe need numbers for. And I mean, if that was the case, we'd still supplement for those, to be honest, and you'd probably be all right, like B12 and what have you, and iron and that sort of thing. So yeah, generally it's a case of, unless the person's feeling a certain way and it's unexpected given their lifestyle, they're nailing their healthy basics, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to go out of your way to test before doing some of these things. Like you said, that shotgun approach, it's relatively safe to have a magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, omega-3 as a supplement. long as you're not doing any crazy dosing of those, and we wouldn't recommend that. So yeah, that's, I guess, our answer. And that
Yeah,
concludes.
there you go. We're gonna have to be on it though. We apologize because we didn't answer many questions this time around. So we're gonna have to be on it with the questions next time around, Steve.
Mike, you're terrible. Why? I spoke about half an hour on peak week because I just can't help myself. And no, this is my bad anyway. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for your questions as always. Thank you, Mike, for taking the time. If there was ever a reminder for online coaching, now's the time. If you want to jump up with us, jump up. Yeah, let's all jump up to online coaching. We're gonna have a chat and talk about how we might be able to help you. We love this, and guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Oh, if you want to ask questions, as always, it's linked, the Hypertrophic Time Chamber. If you haven't got Instagram, then shame on you. You should be on social media. It's the best place on earth. And you're listening, you can email me at steve@revivestronger, and you can email your question in, or you can write a YouTube comment, and we'll surely see it. I'm sure we'll see it. And we'll log it to be answered at some point. So guys, anyway, I'll stop rambling. I'll let you guys go, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great week, guys. See you later.